Formula Drift season kickoff press conference. 20 years is a long time to do anything, much less alone be involved in this kind of wacky and crazy sport of drifting. I think you kind of need to be a little bit wacky or a lot passionate, and I ask myself that often, why we've been doing this for so long. But part of that passion is derived from these guys over here, this panel of 7 that we've put together, which are really just a microcosm of the 39 pro drivers that are competing with us this year. We want to basically introduce these drivers and then open up for traditional questions, and we'll invite Greg Emerson to come up and host those questions from the ID agency. First driver to my left is Bakchis. One of the standout elements about Odie in my mind is that he has made his drifting career really a family affair. He has not only integrated his family into activities at the track, but his wife multiple times has won Spotter of the Year. Last year he had a tremendous surge towards the end, a hair's breadth away from capturing the championship. In my opinion, he is one of the best, if not the best, suspension designers out there, and you can see that manifest itself all over the track. He's always a deadly weapon out there, and his selflessness in giving another person a car to compete against him, I think, says a lot about his personality. Next to him is Matt Field. I can honestly say that Matt is one of the most competitive and hardest working people that I've ever met in and outside of drifting. Everything that Matt has come through hard work. I've spent many hours on the phone talking to Matt about the nuances of things that happened at events and a lot of other fun stuff. To see him grow to where he started from to where he is now is quite amazing, and I think it's a real inspiration to know that every single year he is competing for a championship off of the hard work that he's put into this sport. Next to Matt is Simen Olsen. I think you can pretty easily say that the greatest year-over-year performance increase was done by Simen. It's what happens when you give an amazing car to an amazing driver, and you can see that manifest out on the track. Simen really blew a lot of us away, was able to come away with a top 5 finish last year, and I think the expectation is there that he's going to do it again. On some days, depending on what side of the bed I wake up, the driver to Simon's left, James Deane, I considered him to be the best ever drifter in the history of drifting. I think the international accomplishments that he's made, the 3 championships that he has in Formula Drift, the diversity of cars that he gets into say a lot about his performance and how he motivates himself as a driver. We're jokingly saying that we need to bottle the water in Cork because so many great drifters come out of that area. But last year he took on a very challenging task, getting into a brand new chassis with a brand new team, and we wanted to see what that would look like. It became very crystal clear to me the type of driver that he is, the type of person he is, when he flew 6 feet in the air into the barricades at Irwindale, completely destroying the car. The next morning, I went to go see him in the paddock, and he had a look in his eyes like, I am for sure going to get out there. Nothing is going to stop me. I'm going to go out and compete. And little did he know, at the time he had multiple broken bones. Probably should not have been driving, but that persistence, that passion, that dedication to excellence pushed him through, and he's able to finish that year super strong. I've heard Conor say that he's never seen James more competitive than he is right now, and I think that that's a very scary thing. If I get up on the other side of the bed, Fredric Aasbo is the driver that I consider to be the best driver of all time. He is by far and away the most winningest Formula Drift driver. He's also an international superstar in many ways, and to my mind, one of the greatest ambassadors that the sport has ever seen. He's not only extremely humble, but his skill set and everything that he brings to the table is something that all drivers should emulate. He's a wonderful person, and he has shown us time and time again, even though, how old are you now, Fredric?
Depends what's asking, 38.
He's 38, but he looks 27. I feel like he's still got quite a few more years to go. It seems almost a guarantee that he will capture another championship at some point, and then it will be very, very clear how much winning he has done in Formula Drift. Next to him is Ben Hobson. He is our reigning Pro Spec champion. I've said it before, I'll say it again. If you could design the perfect drifter, it would be somebody like Ben. Not only is he incredibly talented, his attitude, the way that he approaches the track, the marketing ability, the support that he has from his family, the uniqueness that he brings to the table are all things that make him and give him a point of difference in this sport. Ben has to fill probably the biggest shoes that anybody has had to fill. And if it wasn't Ben, I would be worried that those shoes would be filled. But I think Ben is going to take this task on of jumping into Chelsea's car and going out there and really making a name for himself at the pro level. We've seen what he can do at Pro Spec. Now it's time to step up into the pro level, and I have all the confidence in the world that he's going to bring the success that he had in Pro Spec into pro. And finally, Conor Shanahan, a new addition to the season this year. Conor, in my opinion, is the next generation right now. This is a very young, extremely talented athlete, the current DMC champion, that at some point was given a provisional license. We saw him on the approved driver's list, and then he didn't make it on the registered list. And I'll let him tell this story, but the night before we did the draw for this round, I got a message from Conor saying, hey, I think I can make it happen. And I kind of told him, I'm like, this is going to blow everybody's minds. And I'm not entirely sure if he was ready for the reception that he received from the general public, but it is amazing to have an athlete like Conor partake in the series, and particularly partnering up with the team that he has. I think it's going to be a really great way to see different style of driving and to know that he is going to level up everybody else. So that is our panel of 7, everybody. At this point, I'd like to bring up Greg Emerson to field questions. And also for the media, just raise your hand. We'll get you a microphone if you'd like to ask any questions as well. Greg?
Thank you. That's a hard act to find. Ryan can give me some questions which are longer than your answers, so I'll edit them a little bit. And the one that we sort of skipped over, I think, is qualifying. So I think this is the first thing that as drivers and fans, everyone's going to experience. So let's just jump to Fredric for a moment. What do you see as the biggest benefit of this new seating bracket?
I think is this on? Yeah. I think the best part about it is that fans are going to see more of what they're here to watch. I think qualifying, as important as it was, sort of felt like a little bit of a transport stage to get to what people really wanted to see. And it was also really hard for judges to deal with qualifying. I think a lot of the flack and a lot of the issues and the controversies were in qualifying, because I think it's hard as a judge to compare a run that you're watching now to a run you watched 30 cars ago. So I think it's going to make the sport easier to understand for fans and really nail down on what this is really all about, that dog fight, if you will.
So Matt, come to you. Fairly well known for a reasonably aggressive approach to qualifying. Do you think that a driver will face more jeopardy coming through this seating bracket, or do you think it's a wash?
I wouldn't say necessarily that they're going to face more jeopardy. I think that qualifying, when you've been doing the sport long enough, qualifying was one of those, you just assume that you're in. For quite some years now, there hasn't been 60 drivers, but I remember showing up at Long Beach just crossing my fingers that I was even going to qualify. So the fact that that pressure was gone, you're really just fighting for the top spots, which meant that you were just fighting for the best bracket you could get. But with the bottom 8 shaking everything up, a lot of times you would qualify in the top 5 and have a heavy hitter because they went down to the bottom 8. So it kind of almost felt like a pointless task that you try your absolute hardest, you focus so much on setup, the team's putting their head together, their spotters are pounding on the desk, so much focus and energy just to draw a heavy hitter in top 32. I mean, you're like, well, none of that really matters anymore. So I think that will alleviate some of the pressure off the drivers, but then again, now you have some serious battles in top 32 that you already know you're going to be having. So I guess it's good and bad. I guess the bad side of it could potentially be you're going to be stewing for 2 weeks knowing that's your battle in top 32 because you can kind of figure it out, basically. But the good side of that is you can hit the ground running the first lap out of the weekend where you know you're going to have that tough battle. You could be focusing on that battle. So I think overall, what we're going to see is better battles, no doubt.
Good. Ben, so just coming to you, 2023 Prospect Champion, you have to go through the seeding bracket. Do you think that's an advantage for you coming into pro, or is that going to work against you?
I don't think it's going to work against me at all, to be honest with you. I feel like I'll get a little bit more seat time, a little bit more battle time, some actual, kind of treat it as perfect practice and go out there and practice perfectly. So go through the battles and, I like to practice like I'm competing. So it's kind of neat that you do have that opportunity. But I did like qualifying because I like the different, you could differentiate yourself from the other drivers, but at the same time, just like they've spoken on, the fan base is what we're here for. We put on a show for the fans, and the fact that they can come and watch some more battles and battles before the battles get started, to me, that's more sick. So a lot more tandems, and I like the concept of having the, seating bracket and getting a little, feel for you. You don't have to go out there in my first lap and battle Matt Field or James Deane or Fredric Aasbo or any of these heavy hitters and kind of get my feet wet. It's kind of nice to be in the first year in. I don't know if that's, speaking on the guys from the previous years, but for me, I'm liking that. Nothing bad against it.
Great. Conor, welcome to Formula Drift. This is how you're going to arrive at Formula Drift. You're going to be going through the seeding bracket. Do you think that's an advantage for you as well?
Yeah, for sure. My opinion is very similar to what Ben said. It's more seat time in the car, with like a realistic feeling of what it's like to lose. So I think, no matter how many people say, oh, just drive like you're driving in practice, it still doesn't feel like when you get the same in a battle. So to have that advantage just to try get some battles under your belt, and I think this one for sure is quite interesting because there's some heavy hitters also in the last bracket, so you're going to have to be on the A game. I think on the opposite side also is that there is probably a chance of some strategy coming into it also, which is quite interesting. You could take the risk to take down a heavy hitter in the top 32. I think that's quite interesting to see that you have that option as a driver. If you look where you want to be seated and you can look at the side of the bracket what you want to be on, or for argument's sake, if you're in a championship case, you can take the risk and put it in your own hands and try to take somebody down and think and win the championship.
Odie, just something to you now. So, coming out of 2023, you had an amazing season, a great finish there in Irwindale. What are you able to bring into 2024 from off the back of that?
Bringing Simen onto the team and having actually been Hobson on the team last year, we learned a lot. I've been running the same chassis for a very long time. Putting talented drivers in the chassis really allowed me to see that these cars can be driven quite differently than how I drive them. The feedback, that we were able to kind of get just by looking at the way they drive, looking at their logs, was really instrumental for us going into this season and finding where the shortcomings were and just improving off of that. So I'm really happy just having the luxury and the fun factor of having cool drivers on my team and going into the season, having a full season of that in my pocket and all right, let's build on that.
So what do you think you learned about the car and the setup from these guys that maybe you wouldn't have found yourself?
Yeah, honestly, it was kind of humbling to tell you the truth. Seeing Ben Hobson jump in, a prospect driver, and just the way he would initiate and the way the car was set up, it was wound up, it was gripped up, and this guy was just hucking it in. It opened up my eyes, I'm sure it opened up Simon's eyes, going, okay, we could overdrive the car in certain ways. And then, Simen, being so robotic and consistent, showed that, hey, these cars could do it. If you're not consistent, not robotic, you as a driver need to kind of shape up a little bit. It's not the car being inconsistent. So
There's many more, but these were kind of like the key things that stood out. And yeah, we tailored the power band of the cars a little bit too, because we noticed that a lot of the drivers struggle with how peaky and aggressive they are, things like that. So I can keep going on and on. Those are the major ones.
So you've led the championship a number of times, but haven't quite won it yet. What do you think you've got to do this year to make that difference?
You know, that's a good question, and I don't overthink it at this point anymore. I've been doing this for about 13 years, and you know, having fun. I've been top 5, top 3 for many, many years. It's been kind of almost like a comfortable spot to be in. Always charging for the championship, and honestly, I think it just takes not overthinking it and not losing track of having fun behind the wheel of these really fun, aggressive cars. So. Yeah, this season I'm focusing on, hey, you know, relax, have fun behind the wheel, and I think all just kind of falls into place when you're doing that.
So final question for you. Now that Ben's gone to RTR, is he just dead to you, or will you be rooting for it?
No, I mean, honestly, I'm thrilled. Out of all these badass drivers here, 3 of these drivers, including myself, have graduated from the field race team. Like, that to me is mind-blowing. I literally, that just sunk in when I was sitting here. So to be able to provide a platform for drivers to really showcase who they are, pulling Ben out of out of your crusty Pro Spec S14 and putting it in my car and having you seeing where you're at right now, like that is amazing. Simen pulling me out of that Supra that looked pretty but didn't do it, you know, just seeing where these guys are at now is, it feels great. So no, even if they graduate, step up, I'm just proud of them. And looking to see what they do, and can't wait to take them out when visors are down.
So Simon, just jumping to you, obviously you had a great season last year as well. What do you think the Odin's team allowed you to do that you couldn't do before?
Definitely setup. That would be the biggest change. The whole team has so much knowledge on setup and to proper build a race car. And the way they do it and how they understand my feedback is so good, and that's definitely what made the biggest change for me.
So what are you going to do differently approaching this season than maybe you did the first season with OD? Are you obviously you're more prepared now? Is there anything you can do differently to get those extra places?
I think it's more like I now know what to expect from the car and the team and everything. So now I have a lot more answers already, and we have a setup that we can look back to, and just having a better setup right out the box will make the practice count better. And yeah, just now I know I can do this for sure. I put it down on the paper, and I mean, we're going for it, so I think it's just go for it and have fun and take the ride.
So what do you think will be a good result for 2024? Are you only got the eyes on the championship, or will you be happy with the second or third?
No, I'm definitely going for a championship, but I want to have fun on the way too. So focus is going to be learn a lot and have fun, and if we can win the championship, that would top the whole thing.
Matt, in a similar position to Odie, you've been so close so many times. Having lost the championship by tiny margins, what do you think you can do? I know we ask this every year. What are you going to do differently?
All I can do is prepare myself, the team, and the car to the best of my abilities. I think every single year I do the same thing. I try my best. This year's going to be no different. I will say this year, I feel like I'm more prepared than ever. I've had more time in the actual competition car, which is definitely rare for us boys. These cars are so incredibly expensive to operate, highly strung, take so much work just to get them to a place to do a couple of laps, that I'm very fortunate that we've been prepared, and I've had a bunch of test days and burnt a bunch of tires, and I'm at the point where I'm comfortable in the car right away, which I think takes a lot of people maybe an event or two. Normally, I have maybe not quite as many test days. I think that I'm in the best shape of my life, physically and mentally. I'm eating as good as I possibly can, and I'm trying my absolute best to remember the reason why I started drifting. And I think a lot of us just focus on the competition side of things and have like that one look. Look, even me, I started the conversation saying how prepared I am with the competition car. But realistically, man, I did a lot of driving with the boys, the grassroots guys. having fun in low-powered beater cars, and those are the days that remind me why I continue to do this. And I think having more of that I can bring to the competition side of things is what's going to hopefully push me over the top. We're always in it. I'm always going to try my best. If the car holds together and I keep my right foot down, I think we'll have a good chance this year.
So did you find anything specific in the car that you feel will make a difference this year?
One big thing last year was reliability. I spent a lot of practice sessions working on the car, which is strange because almost year after year, the things that we change are not things that will break, and then all of a sudden you just find, oh, just replace that, like I always do. The amount of hours that are in this part, I always replace it, now that part broke. So you try your best to remember everything that broke, go through your notes, and improve either how you fix those things or make it not break at all. So I think if I can spend less time in the pits and more time on track, that's going to help. Because other than that, the car is basically the same. We're constantly finding tiny, tiny little changes to make the car faster, easier to drive, better, of course. But if I can keep the car on the track, I think I'm 1 or 2 steps ahead for sure.
Do you think you're going to drive with more emotion this year or more consideration?
Consideration for what?
Not crashing.
To be honest, I don't ever think about crashing. In the early days, of course, I thought about crashing. What I would tell myself is, don't crash the car. But let me tell you, if you tell yourself don't do something, that's what you're going to end up doing. So I try to push that out of my mind completely and think about more in the positive side of things. Not, don't crash the car in the first corner. Instead, I tell myself, I'm going to do this. I'm going to pick up the throttle. I'm going to get close to the wall. I'm going to transition on throttle. So if you tell yourself the things that you want to do. As far as consideration goes, I mean, the visor goes down and the focus is as incredibly precise. That's the big thing. And something else that I was trying to work on over the last couple of years is precision, next level driving. I think that when I look at somebody like Fredric, that guy is a freaking samurai sword. He's a sharpened knife. And that's where I want to kind of push my driving. Obviously, all these boys up here are the best drivers in the world, hands down. But when you look at somebody where you're like lap after lap, you see that precision, that bumper graze on the wall, that really, like Ryan Turek here, that guy's a freaking weapon here. And that's where I've been trying to push myself. But what that really means is making the car reliable, keep it on track so that you're in the right headspace to be the weapon that you want to be.
James, how would you summarise your first year at RTR? Was it the year you wanted?
Yeah, so I always knew it was going to be a big learning curve, so it was probably the first time in my career where I was driving a car which I didn't really have control of, so I was, learning new things. Every event was almost like a test session for me. So where back home with my own cars, you have the time to bring it to your local track, do small tweaks, find what you like, but we were making these small changes between competitions, and I was learning a hell of a lot between every single event. I felt like we ended up in a solid place at the end of the year, and we knew what we kind of wanted to adapt and change coming into this year. And then we had the off season to make some changes and really make a good few steps in the right direction.
So do you think RTR will be a better team for James without Chelsea? Will you get more of their focus this year, do you think?
Yeah, so I think last year as well, it was a huge year for RTR. First time running 3 cars. There was a lot of work going on behind the scenes, even though they always make it happen every single time. We all crashed at different times and they always got us back out there. But I think running 3 cars is a challenge, definitely, and I think it's the first time in pro level drifting where it's been happening. And obviously it had some disadvantages, but I think going back to 2 cars this year is a step in the right direction for focus, making sure that everything is as good as it can be and not missing anything. So I feel like everyone's going in the right direction. Obviously Chelsea won the championship last year, the team can do it, the cars can do it, and now it's just up to us, myself and Ben, keep learning these cars every single lap and just take it as it comes.
So what do you think you've been able to do to the car for 24 that will make the difference for you?
Yeah, so obviously last year it was a new car, but they went with, say, a roll cage design for a normal size human. So this year's chassis, it's built around me, so it's like my car's back home. I can put the seat where I want, I'm sitting back, I'm comfortable behind the pedals. I'm sitting at a nice height, and then we moved some weight around the chassis as well to kind of suit my style of driving, so it snaps a bit nicer, it transitions a bit nicer. We worked on some geometry things. I bought a Mustang back in Ireland so I could practice and test some things myself, so now I can actually get some seat time outside of the events. And I feel like just having that confidence and moving forward that, oh, I know what this car is going to do when I launch it in at somebody, you have a better idea of what to expect.
And of course you're on the right side of the car too.
Yeah, right, I enjoy Mustang, only one in the US, pretty cool.
So you obviously found a lot of internet fame with last year's Owendale Impact, and Ryan mentioned that earlier. What was that determination? What was in your brain to get back in that car after?
Literally, I got out of the car, we spoke with Matt, just had a quick chat, and then I was talking to Vaughn, and I was looking up and I saw it on the screen for the first time, that shot that went everywhere, and I was like, wow, that's the best clip of the year. Even though I was in pain, and I knew something was a bit wrong, but I was like, at least it's good social content, and it sure was. But you know, I honestly thought we were done. I thought that the chassis was wrecked. I was looking at it, like when we pulled it out from the wall, and like, yeah, there's no way. Like, it was the last lap of practice. Qualifying was coming up really quickly. I knew I was a bit shaken, but I just kind of walked away, spoke to the team briefly. They said we're going to try to fix it. So I knew that even if they did fix it, that it wasn't going to be the same car I was practicing with. So I had that, then I remember literally driving the golf cart around with Becky, my partner, and I was in pain, and I was trying to turn left, and it was literally bringing tears to my eyes as I was trying to turn the wheel left, and I thought I couldn't do it, but I had the Shanahans, they flew over from Ireland to support me and check out FD as well, and they were like, we didn't come all this way to watch you walk around the sling for the weekend, you have to try. So I jumped back in the car, the guys got it done just in time. I had no idea what to expect, but I was like, let's just send it and see what happens, because I knew that if I was these cars will catch you off guard if you try to drive them cautiously. So I know I needed to drive it hard, just push through the pain. It's only a 30-second run, and it worked out. We managed to qualify, I think, 8th, and then I didn't know if I was going to do the next day, because I knew if I was in another crash, I didn't know how much damage it was going to cause to me. So I knew, you know, Armadale is a challenging track for all of us. We all know it's a risky one. I knew before I was ever in a crash that there is a high chance we could crash, because that's just the reality of it. And yeah, we just pushed on through it and made it happen. So yeah.
So 30 seconds of pain was worth it.
Yeah, but there was many 30 seconds over next Saturday.
So Fredric, just moving on to you. So Matt was talking about your precision, which obviously Long Beach demands that. Does Long Beach set you up for the season, and can it break your season, do you think?
Yes and no. You know, if we already use ourselves as an example, we've done well here in the past. We've also done terribly here in the past, and even though it sort of sets the tone, it doesn't necessarily mean that whoever wins here will win the season. But it is a very challenging place to shake off, you know, the jitters and the cobwebs. And, you know, it's very unforgiving, and it sort of slaps you back in shape a little bit, no matter how much you prepare, I think. I'd say, you know, I have a lot of respect for this place, and it's, you know, Matt, thank you for the compliment. And you know, it made me think back to November of last year. So coming off a challenging season for us, we went to Japan for the RSR Drift Festival. And for the first time, I found myself teaming up with Matt and Odie and Dylan in a team drift setting. And that was honestly something really cool. It was just for a short little demo thing, but it sort of made me think back and realize why I'm doing this. Matt mentioned driving with the boys, you know, that's what it's about, you know. We're in this together, even though we're competing, and I spent the rest of the winter going back on the frozen lakes back home like I always do, and coming off of last year, I thought that I would need more of a break to really get back in the zone, but that wasn't the case. Just wanted to get back to driving, and here I am this year, and it feels like a reset year for us, and I'm excited.
So as Ryan mentioned, you've got the most wins in the series. You've already got 3 championships. How do you motivate yourself to come back and face those walls? How are you gonna? Is the 4th championship everything to you, or is it about driving these guys?
So that's always been a thing for me, is really dig deep for that motivation. After I won the first championship, I was actually pretty demotivated the next year, 2016, and my story has always been very much a roller coaster ride like that. And what happened last year is I started feeling like my only worth was how well I did on track. And that sort of killed the vibe a little bit for me from the midway point and out. Now this year, being back to being a challenger, and after not placing well last year, I, funnily enough, feel a lot more motivated, because now we're sort of back to square one, back to zero, back to relearning the sport. And I think at the core of it, the part that I really love about this is the development. It's me developing as a driver, developing the car with the team. That nerdy fascination for that is really the core inspiration for me. So as long as I can find back to that, I tend to really enjoy my time on track, and I feel like I'm in that spot now.
So with all the success you've had and that incredible team behind you, will you continue to look to Formula Drift for your future, or do you think there's a future in other motorsport maybe, or where would you go?
Always been a big rallycross fan, but then again, I wouldn't touch rallycross unless I have a lot of respect for it, unless there was a good plan behind it. So I'll probably always be drifting in some way. My better half, Hunter, has already started managing a kid back home, 17-year-old driver. Maybe eventually I'll get into some sort of setup like that. You know, we were all getting older, but I still feel like I can do well. Some of the best drivers in the sport I've driven until their mid-40s. So I truthfully think I still got it, and what the future holds, I'm not even going to try and predict that. The only thing I'm working on right now is one turn at a time, one lap at a time here in Long Beach.
I'm not asking you to leave.
I'm not.
So Ben, moving on to you. After winning that championship and deciding to go to pro, how did you end up in RTR, or did it come the other way around? Did RTR approach you and you came to pro?
More or less, it was Vaughn hit me up on Instagram in Utah last year, and he was just kind of curious of what my future plans was, and I didn't have a clue what my future plans was. All I knew was I wanted to drive. I wanted to drive. This is the funnest sport in the world, probably the most stressful sport in the world, but you know, that's what we all signed up for it. He asked me, you know, and I was like, it's always been a dream. I'm a big Ford family. My dad owns a Ford dealership. I've always been a Mustang guy. Well, my first car, I had a car before, but my first actual car was a Mustang. And then, you know, I taught myself how to drift in 2011. Had an automatic Mustang GT. I didn't know what drifting was, but I was out messing around and, you know, found out that I loved it. And so I sold it and got rid of my Mustang and bought a 240 because I could afford 240s. And it's just crazy that it's all came back full circle to where now I'm back in a Mustang. And it's kind of where it all started for me, back in the roots. And hell, I daily drive a Mustang, dude. I love them. They're great cars. But it's definitely a lot to take on. So this, like you say, this track is a good welcome back track. Well, it's a good welcome call for me. You know, we just had our first sessions in media day and already found outside zone 3 with the rear of the car, so got that one out of the way. No, I'm beyond honored to be even, you know, chosen to be looked at, to be considered, and the fact that got chosen to be a part of one of the best teams in Formula Drift, and then now I'm doing the sport that I dreamed of doing whenever I was, you know, 17, 18 years old, and it's just like, it's crazy. I still don't believe it. I'm still waiting for Fredric to pinch me over here and I'll wake up on my pillow. So the fact that I'm sitting beside these guys that I've looked up to since I was a 18-year-old kid, dumb, don't know what I'm doing. I just had a dream and a goal, and it's crazy that that I'm sitting beside him, going to talk, hold the microphone, and James Deane. He's my freaking teammate. Holy crap, dude. Like, this guy I've looked up to forever, and coming from Bakchis calls me a year prior, and it's just like, why me? And it's like, you know, to have people like these guys, and who do you want me to drive for them? And Vaughn didn't want me to drive for them. It's crazy. It blows my mind. I just like having fun, and this shit's fun, so I enjoy it, and I'm honored to be a part of it.
So, is it intimidating to drive that RTR Mustang, and how do you think that team dynamic is going to help you?
Intimidating? No. To me, it's like going from a mongoose to a huffy. You know, it's a different bike, but they all do the same thing. You gotta hit the gas, you gotta pedal, so you gotta pedal and turn. So it's more or less intimidating that you know, I had a mindset just like I kind of hit me in my feels when Fredric was talking, but I have a mindset that I have to do good on track and I have to do good to impress people, and I kind of kicked that mindset to the curb, and you know, the one person I'm here to impress is myself and to have fun. I gotta keep focused on having fun, and the only intimidation there is myself, you know, trying to stay out of my own head and kick that to the curb, have fun. So honestly, I'm my only intimidator. You know what I mean? The rest of these guys, yeah, it's more of an honor to drive with them than it is to be scared to drive with them. Like, I would love to see Matt Field push my door and that shit's sick. So, I'm my only intimidator out there, to be honest with you.
So you don't feel any extra pressure from driving a championship winning car?
The only pressure, no. I mean, nerves are there, but the pressure would be self-brought, and that's all negative, so I try to keep the negatives out. But yeah, the butterflies are there. It's crazy that I'm wheeling a previous championship car, and you know, it's neat, but it's more of a cool thing to me than a pressure thing. I'm excited, so I get to have fun all year doing something I love to do in a car that I've always dreamed of doing it in, and I feel like that's the only pressure would be the stuff that people put on me. So it's not even mine, it's theirs.
Fantastic. So just moving to Conor now, as the defending Drift Masters champion, we heard that it was like the day before the Bakchis were announced that you decided to commit to pro. What was going on there?
Yeah, so firstly, obviously, it's like an honor to be here. You know, I think, you know, all these guys talk very well spoken, and it's very similar stories, which is amazing to hear. So for me, it's kind of, you know, I was a kid with a dream in a small place in Killabullen, so turning up here is already a win for me. You know, we had the chance to watch one of the best drivers in the world from the same area as me, which also is quite unique, and everybody's talking about the bottled water, so I feel like I got to back that up now and show that the water is definitely good. But you know, it's cool. We got to watch James, and he's been like one of the biggest supporters of me and Jack, and has always pushed our program, pushed us as drivers, and we've always tried to bounce off each other to make each other better. So to share the stage with him on the streets of Long Beach, I think is quite a special feeling, and quite a special feeling for everybody at home also. So you know, for me, it's FD was always the goal eventually. I've looked up to all these guys, you know, Aasbo, Odie, Matt. You know, I've been a little kid watching them and saying, you know, I want to be that guy one day. I want to beat that guy one day. You know, that was always the goal. So to get a chance to come here is obviously a win already. The story is quite crazy. We had some plans to come to FD this year, and about maybe 2 months ago we put a hold to them, and I wanted to focus kind of on Drift Masters, and I have a lot going on with the business side of that program, and it's going super well, which us as a whole team is super proud of. And I think the ideal scenario for me was to bring the Shanahans to Formula Drift and bring it as a whole package, which is not far away, and that's pretty cool. And you know, I think I kind of used that mindset to say, okay, I won't come to Formula Drift, but then I met Rome, and Rome reminded me of somebody like that was a brother that I never had. You know, it was like an older brother that me and Jack never met, and I think we just clicked, and it was literally simple. There was no piece of paper, there was no anything. It was like, do you want to do this? And I was like, it's like 4 weeks away, man. Like, do you think it's possible? And he's like, I'm sure we can pull something out of the bag. So he literally worked every night in his garage, rebuilding the motor, like rebuilding the whole car. I was off speaking to sponsors to see how much budget I could find to run this program, and it all came together pretty last minute. So I think, when Ryan looked at that message, he was like, oh damn, this guy, you know, I'm messaging a day before the pool goes out. So you know, for me, it's cool to share an experience with somebody like that, because that's what drifting is about for me. It's about, you know, personalities. We're all cool characters that, you know, are just good at driving cars, I guess, but we're all friends, and I'm glad that I'm at this side of the world right now, and already I'm learning that it's very similar, that everybody is close here. Of course, we all want to beat each other, that's the name of the game, and but we also want to have fun while doing it. So to be teaming up with Rome is quite cool, and I think we can achieve quite good things together. Rome is a super good personality, and I think, you know, already I've noticed like bringing some knowledge from Europe and helping Rome with car setup while we were testing and stuff. We clicked very well, and he trusted everything I said, and I trust everything he said. So let's see. I know I already said it's a win to turn up, but I don't like losing no matter what car I'm in. So the work is being put in right now. We'll stay focused as a driver and just see what we can get out of the thing by the end of the championship. But right now it's just a learning curve, learning every driver, learning new tracks. I'm driving my car with the steering wheel on the wrong side, which is probably the biggest thing. So I'm not used to that. So there's lots to learn, but for me as a driver, I find that quite interesting, and I feel like, you know, going on a motivation topic, that it motivates me because, you know, I've been successful in Europe right now with running there for 5 years, trying to reach the dream of becoming a champion, and finally achieved that last year. So I think coming here, you know, it motivates me huge that I've got the challenge to try and be successful in Formula Drift, but I've also got the pressure of driving a car, what's left and drive, driving an engine, what I've never drove, driving a chassis, what I've never drove. And I think for me as a driver, I'm going to use that as energy, I'm going to use that as hype, and try to put that into my driving to show that, you know, I'm capable of adjusting to anything, I'm capable of putting in the work to try and be the best that I can be, and that's all I can offer. So I'm glad to be here, and it's quite special to share the stage with all these talented people.
So I understand you're doing this Road Atlanta, so what do you think a good season will look like for you? What are you hoping to do? Do you think you can get a title?
I missed one round, so I don't think the title is an option. I think probably the only option is if Long Beach goes good and I come back for Orlando and take a huge risk coming out of the pool, and try to take down the guy who I think can win the championship. That's probably the only thing what could possibly work, but you're taking a huge risk there, but at least it's in your own hands. So right now the championship is honestly the least of my worries. We want to come here as a team. When the Shanahans come here, we want to roll out and finish 1-2 in this championship. So I'm going to use this year as a lot of knowledge, learn as much as I can, and definitely want to achieve to win an event before the season is finished. That would be quite nice, and I feel like everything after that will just be the cherry on the cake. And I love this sport, I love everything about it, and you know, the driving I think is a part of it, but also we have got to do so many other cool things, you know, even to be here and driving on a place like this. So it's a win-win for me. When the helmet goes on, that's when the work is done, and let's see how we fare on Saturday.
So just finally, what do you think are going to be the differences between driving Drift Masters and Formula Drift?
Yeah, the driving style is hugely different. It's something what I always knew that I probably would come here at some stage, so it was always something what I watched quite closely to gather as much information as I could, you know, from a young age, and you know, try to learn as much as I can about the way these drivers drive. And I think the style in Europe is right now it's super aggressive. You know, we're literally millimeters from doors trying to win a battle and trying to push, and everybody is pushing the sport, which is amazing. And you know, the guys who are at the top of their game here are no different. You know, they can come to Europe and they can win. So I think as a driver thing, yeah, there's some probably different driving styles here, but at the end of the day, it's a car and it's a battle. What we got to figure out how to win. So I think that's probably not the biggest thing for me. The biggest thing right now is probably the tires. The tires are usually different what are running here, what we run in Europe. The biggest thing for me is the front tire. Probably it doesn't have the same confidence what I have probably using a front tire what I would use in Europe. So for me, it's a little bit different driving style that I can't use as much left foot while chasing. And that's probably my biggest technique when I'm driving, that I'm always trying to chase with the left foot. I think it's a much smoother approach. So that's probably the biggest thing what I got to adapt to, and it's probably the biggest challenge is just figuring out the tires, figuring out the setup of the car, and everything is a learning curve. There's a lot to learn right now, but I'm pretty sure with the team I got around me, we're capable of learning it.
So if we can just open up to questions. Anybody have any questions for the drivers right now? No. So I believe there's some lunch at the back there. Help yourselves to lunch. Guys, thanks so much for your time.